If you had told me 5 years ago that the person who knew my coffee order, my childhood trauma, my bank password hints, my biggest fears, was secretly becoming me, I would have laughed. Because she wasn't just my best friend. She was my sister. And this is how I found out she had been living my life behind my back. Her name was Vanessa. We met during our first year at university. Same major, same lectures, same broke student lifestyle. We bonded over instant noodles, shared textbooks, and heartbreak. By second year, we were inseparable. People used to joke and say, if one of you commits a crime, the other is definitely involved. We laughed about it. Looking back now, that joke feels different. Vanessa wasn't just my friend. She was inside my life. She had a key to my apartment. She knew my laptop password. She had access to my Wi-Fi, my mail, my everything. But that's what best friends do, right? You share, you trust, you don't expect to be replaced. It started small, it always do. One afternoon, I received a strange email. Thank you for updating your contact information, but I hadn't updated anything. I assumed it was spam. Then my bank app logged me out randomly. I blamed the update. Then a friend texted me, hey, why did you delete your Instagram? I hadn't. When I checked, my account was still there. But later that week, I noticed something strange. My Instagram bio had changed. Just slightly. It now said, digital marketing consultant entrepreneur building my empire. I never wrote that. I brushed it off. Maybe I changed it half asleep. Maybe I was Vanessa told me, you're just stressed. Final year anxiety. And I believed her. Vanessa started asking more personal questions. Not normal friend questions, detailed questions. What was the name of my first pet? Which primary school did I attend? What was my mother Essie maiden name? What hospital was I born in? At the time, it felt like nostalgia. We were reminiscing about childhood stories, except she wrote some of the answers down. I joked, what are you doing? Writing my biography? She laughed. You never know. I might need it one day. I thought it was harmless. Now, I know it was research. Vanessa always admired my life. Not in a jealous way, or so I thought. She'd say things like, you're so lucky, everything just works out for you. You have the perfect LinkedIn profile. People just trust you instantly. At first, it felt flattering. But sometimes, there was something behind her smile. Something calculating. When I got my first remote job offer, she celebrated loudly. But later that night, she asked, do you think they'd ever hire someone like me? I said, of course. But she didn't ask how to improve her CV. She asked if she could see mine. She asked if she could borrow the format. I sent it to her. Of course I did. That's what best friends do. 3 years into our friendship, I started getting congratulatory messages. Congrats on the new consulting gig. What made you move cities? Your rebrand is bold. I was confused. What consulting gig? What move? What rebrand? Then someone sent me a screenshot. There was a LinkedIn profile with my name. My exact name, my university, my degree, my internship, history, my profile picture from 2018, but the location was different. The job history was different, and the bio was polished, more confident, more successful. It was me, but upgraded, and I had never seen it before. My stomach dropped. I showed Vanessa immediately. Look at this. Someone is impersonating me, Shilinding. Brow slightly furrowed. Then she said, that's so creepy. She even helped me report the account. She sat beside me while I filled out the form. She said, people are crazy these days. I remember feeling safe, comforted, because at least I wasn't dealing with it alone. That night, she slept over, and I fell asleep thinking, thank God I have her. A month later, my credit card was declined. I knew there was money. I checked the app. There were transactions I didn't recognize. Small amounts, subscriptions, digital tools, online services, nothing huge. just enough to go unnoticed. Except I noticed. I called the bank. They said the purchases were authenticated through email confirmation. My email. But I never confirmed anything. I reset every password, every account, every social media. Vanessa sat on my couch while I did it. She said, "You need to be more careful. The internet is dangerous." The irony makes me sick now. After graduation, Vanessa moved to another city. We stayed close. Daily calls, voice notes, weekend visits. But something changed. She started posting pictures in places I had talked about wanting to visit, restaurants I recommended, events I had mentioned. She used captions that sounded like me. Even my favorite phrases: soft life loading, grateful but grounded, main character energy. It felt like coincidence until it didn't. One day, someone messaged me, "Wait, I thought you moved to Cape Town." I hadn't. But someone with my name had. The real turning point came by accident. I was trying to reset a forgotten password. When I entered my email, the recovery email wasn't mine. It was hers. Vanessa's email, attached to an account under my name. My heart started pounding. I checked another platform. Same thing. Recovery, email, hers. Another one, hers. It wasn't random hacking. It wasn't strangers. It wasn't coincidence. It was calculated. It was consistent. It was someone who knew me inside out. Someone who had access. Someone who sat on my couch. Someone who knew my mother, Essie made a name. Someone who once said, "I might need it one day." I couldn't breathe, because the only person who fit that description was my best friend. I didn't confront her immediately. I told myself I was overreacting. There had to be an explanation. Maybe she accidentally used my details somewhere. Maybe it was a shared account mix-up. Maybe. Denial protects you from pain. But truth doesn't disappear. It waits. And what I discovered next proved this wasn't a mistake. It was a 5-year plan. I thought I knew betrayal, but I hadn't even scratched the surface. Because the deeper I dug, the more I realized she wasn't just copying me. She was replacing me. And by the time I understood how far she'd gone, it was already too late. The scariest part about betrayal isn't the lie. It's the realization that the lie has been living beside you for years. Smiling. After I discovered Vanessa's email attached to accounts under my name, I couldn't sleep. Every memory started replaying in my head. Every time she asked a personal question, every time she borrowed my laptop, every time she said, "Let me help you set that up," it didn't feel like friendship anymore. It felt like surveillance. The next morning, I didn't text her. I didn't call her. I didn't accuse her. I investigated. I created a brand new email address and searched my full name online. What I found made my hands shake. There wasn't just one fake profile. There were multiple. LinkedIn, a freelance consulting site, a startup founder page, even a podcast guest appearance under my name, my face, my university, but the achievements were inflated. 6-figure contracts, international speaking engagements, corporate partnerships. It was the life I dreamed of, but someone else was living it and getting paid for it. I clicked on one of the freelance listings. Digital brand consultant, helping businesses scale globally. It had testimonials, 5-star reviews, client photos, case studies. I copied one client's company name and searched it. It was real. I found their website. And then I did something bold. I emailed them. I introduced myself. "Hi, I recently noticed that my name is associated with consulting services provided to your company. I would like to verify this information." My heart pounded while I waited. 3 hours later, they replied, "Yes, you managed our Q4 campaign last year. Everything went smoothly." My vision blurred. Last year, I was unemployed. That was when fear turned into something else. Anger. If she was using my name to secure contracts, Where was the money going? I reviewed my bank statements for the past 2 years. Nothing unusual besides these small subscriptions. So she wasn't sending the money to me, which meant she had created separate accounts under my name with different contact details. I checked business registration databases, and there it was, a sole proprietorship registered under my full legal name. But the contact number, Vanessa's the registered email, Vanessa's the business address, her apartment. She didn't just steal my identity, she built a company with it. Then I found the podcast episode. It was a small entrepreneurship show, but it was real. There she was. My profile picture, my name on the episode title, From Broke Graduate to Global Consultant. I pressed play, and I heard her voice. She had lowered her tone slightly. Spoken slower, more polished, but it was Vanessa, telling my childhood stories, our childhood stories. Except she was telling them as if they were hers. She talked about her single mother, her scholarship, her struggle with anxiety in university. Those were my experiences, my trauma, my life, and strangers were applauding her for surviving it. I didn't cry. I went numb. The more I searched, the more I uncovered. She had built an entire online persona, speaking engagements in cities I'd never visited. Professional headshots, edited photos of me, but some pictures weren't me. They were her styled to look like me. Same hairstyle, similar outfits, even copying my poses. She wasn't hiding. She was evolving. She had become a better version of me, a version I hadn't managed to become yet, and that realization hurt the most. Suddenly, certain conversations made sense. Every time I told her about a job opportunity, it disappeared. Every time I mentioned applying for something, I got ghosted. Every time I felt close to a breakthrough, something collapsed. I checked old emails. There were forwarded confirmations I never saw. Applications submitted from my email that I didn't remember sending. It was subtle sabotage. She wasn't just building her life. She was stalling mine, keeping me slightly behind, just enough to stay ahead. I needed proof. Concrete proof. So I created a trap. I posted a vague status update, excited for my upcoming project announcement next month. It was fake. There was no project within 48 hours. The fake LinkedIn account posted, thrilled to announce a new international partnership launching soon. Same tone, same wording, same timeline. She took the bait, and that's when I knew this wasn't paranoia. This wasn't coincidence. This was theft. Strategic. Intentional. 5 years of it. Before I continue, if this story has you feeling even half as shocked as I was in that moment, make sure you pause right now and hit that like button. Because what happens next, it gets darker. And if you believe loyalty matters, if you believe friendship should never come with hidden knives, subscribe to True Life Diaries. We tell the stories people are too afraid to share. Drop a comment below. Could you ever forgive something like this? Now, let's continue. I called her that night. I kept my voice steady. Hey, quick question. Have you ever used my name for anything professional? Silence. Then a laugh. What kind of question is that? I stayed calm. I found some accounts. Another pause. Then she said something I will never forget. You always said you didn't want them. Them? Not it. Not confusion. Not denial. Them? As if we both knew. As if we were sharing something. My heart pounded. What do you mean? I asked. You never followed through, she said softly. You're talented, but you hesitate. I just helped. Helped. She called it help. She didn't scream. She didn't panic. She spoke calmly, like she had rehearsed this moment. I wasn't hurting you. I was building something, and I plan to bring you in later. Bring me in? Into my own identity. She said the clients needed confidence. They needed presence. They wouldn't have trusted you yet, she said, so she became me. Upgraded, polished, improved. She convinced herself she was doing me a favor, that she was protecting my potential. But she wasn't protecting me. She was replacing me. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "You don't even realize how much I've done for you." For me, she believed this narrative completely. In her mind, she wasn't a thief. She was a manager, an architect. She sold me as the raw version and herself as the finished product. And for 5 years, she had been living as that product, earning from it, growing it, expanding it, while I stayed confused, stuck, and questioning myself. She didn't steal my identity overnight. She eroded it gradually, patiently, strategically. I thought confronting her would bring clarity, closure, an apology. Instead, it opened a door to something worse. Because when I demanded she shut everything down, she refused. And what she did next forced me to make a decision that would change both our lives forever. When she said she wasn't taking anything down, that's when I realized something terrifying. Vanessa didn't see this as stealing. She saw it as ownership, and people don't give up what they believe they own. After she calmly admitted to using my identity, I expected panic, guilt, fear. Instead, she sounded irritated. "You're overreacting," she said. Overreacting to 5 years of identity theft, 2 contracts signed in my name, 2 money earned under my legal identity, to my childhood trauma being repackaged as her origin story. Overreacting. That word did something to me. It shifted me from emotional to strategic. I told her clearly, "You have 48 hours to delete every account, to register the business, and notify every client." She went quiet. Then she said something that changed everything. "And what if I don't?" Not fear, not apology, challenge. That was the moment I understood. She believed she had leverage, and I didn't yet know what it was. Her tone softened. "You can't prove it was me." I froze. She was right. Technically, the accounts were under my name. The business was registered under my name. The contracts were signed digitally with my identity. If authorities looked at it, it would appear that I was the one running everything. If there were tax issues, legal disputes, client complaints, it would trace back to me. She had hidden behind me, and now I realized something even darker. If this exploded publicly, my name would be the one destroyed, not hers. The next morning, I booked a consultation with a lawyer. Sitting in that office felt surreal. I explained everything: the fake accounts, the business registration, the income trail, the podcast, the impersonation. The lawyer leaned back and said quietly, "This is serious, but you have to move carefully." Because technically, my identity had been used, but without public accusation or documented proof tying her directly to control, it could become complicated, especially since some clients had interacted with me successfully. No complaints, no disputes, no obvious fraud from their perspective. To them, I had delivered results. This wasn't sloppy identity theft. This was organized, clean, professional. I spent the next week gathering everything: screenshots, registration documents, IP logs where possible, archived pages, podcast timestamps, email recovery settings linking back to her, every digital breadcrumb. I stopped sleeping properly. I stopped eating properly. I stopped trusting my own memory, because the more I uncovered, the more I questioned reality. How many opportunities had she intercepted? How many emails had she redirected? How many rejections were never real? I went back through old job applications. Some companies claimed they had interviewed me. I had never attended those interviews. Someone had, using my name, my face, my resume, but her voice. Just when I thought I had uncovered the full damage, I found something worse. Loans, small business loans. Nothing massive, but enough to matter. Taken under the business name under my legal identity, paid consistently, which meant she was handling repayments, maintaining the illusion, but if she stopped, if she disappeared, the liability would fall on me. 5 years of calculated risk. She had built something using my identity as collateral, not just reputation, financial leverage. That's when fear truly set in. The lawyer gave me 2 paths. Path 1, pursue criminal charges quietly. Path 2, publicly expose the impersonation to protect myself legally and reputationally. But public exposure meant something else. It meant destroying her, destroying the person I once called family. It meant our shared friends would find out. Our families would find out. Her parents, who treated me like a daughter. My mother, who trusted her. It would become a scandal and deep doom. I still didn't want to hurt her. Isn't that insane? The person who stole my life. And I was worried about her feelings. I called her one last time. Not angry, not emotional, calm. I'm filing a formal report. Long silence. Then she finally cracked. You would ruin everything. Everything. She didn't say us. She didn't say our friendship. She said everything. Her brand, her clients, her reputation, the life she built as me. I asked her one question. Why me? And for the first time, her voice broke. Because you're everything I wanted to be. That sentence hit harder than the betrayal. It wasn't hatred. It wasn't revenge. It was envy. 5 years of quiet comparison. 5 years of watching. 5 years of studying me. And instead of building herself, she chose to become me. She admitted something else that chilled me. At first, it was just one freelance profile. I didn't think it would go this far. But success changed it. Clients came. Money came. Recognition came. And instead of stopping, she expanded. The business registration came in year 2, the loans in year 3, the podcast in year 4. By year 5, she wasn't pretending anymore. She believed she was me. I told her, this ends now, she begged. Promise to transfer ownership. Promise to phase it out. Promise to fix everything quietly. But trust had evaporated. There was no quiet fix, because the damage wasn't just financial. It was psychological. For 5 years, every self-doubt I had wasn't random. Every stalled opportunity might not have been failure. It might have been interference. And that realization changes a person. It makes you question. Who are you if someone else has been wearing your name better than you? I filed the report, not publicly, not dramatically, but officially. Documentation, legal record, protective action. The lawyer sent a cease and desist, demanding immediate shutdown of all accounts, business dissolution, full financial disclosure, and written admission. The waiting period that followed was torture, because I didn't know what she would do. Comply, disappear, retaliate, or escalate. And then, 3 days later, I received an email notification. The fake LinkedIn account was gone. Then the freelance site, then the podcast episode was removed. One by one. The digital version of me began to vanish. But that wasn't the end. Because when someone loses a life they built, they don't walk away quietly. And Vanessa wasn't done. Not yet. I thought reclaiming my identity would feel victorious. But instead, it felt like standing in the ruins of something I didn't even know was mine. And what she did next proved this was never just about success. It was about control. When the fake account started disappearing, I felt something close to relief. For the first time in weeks, I slept. I thought it was over. I thought the cease and desist had scared her enough. I underestimated her, because when someone builds a life on deception, taking it away doesn't make them disappear. It makes them desperate. It started subtly. A former classmate messaged me, "Hey, is everything okay between you and Vanessa?" My stomach tightened. Why? She posted something weird. I checked her Instagram. There it was, a vague quote. Be careful who you help. Some people will destroy you when they outgrow you. The caption, 5 years of sacrifice, no gratitude. My heart dropped. She wasn't admitting what she did. She was rewriting it. Over the next few days, more posts appeared. Cryptic, emotional, strategic. I built someone's dream while neglecting my own. Some people cry victim when they're the ones who begged for help. Loyalty isn't loud. Betrayal is. Our mutual friends started reacting, commenting, sending her sympathy. No names were mentioned, but everyone knew we had stopped talking. And humans do what humans always do. They fill in blanks, and the loudest storyteller wins. Then came the message that made it personal. A screenshot began circulating. It was supposedly from me. A message claiming I had asked Vanessa to manage freelance projects under my name because I was too anxious to handle clients. The message looked real. My profile picture, my name, my tone, except I never sent it. She had forged it, and now the story was shifting. I wasn't the victim. I was unstable, unreliable, unprofessional. The narrative she was planting was subtle but powerful. I had asked for help. She had sacrificed. And when she succeeded, I got jealous. It was twisted, but it was believable. Pause, right here. If you've ever seen someone twist a story to protect themselves, you know how dangerous that can be. Hit the like button if you believe truth always comes out eventually. And if you're new to True Life Diaries, subscribe right now, because these are real stories about betrayal, survival, and reclaiming your power. Now let's continue, because this gets even more intense. I started noticing distance. Friends who used to check in stopped. Group chats went quiet. Invites slowed down. No one confronted me directly, but I could feel it. The doubt, the suspicion. And that's the power of manipulation. You don't attack directly. You erode credibility. She wasn't trying to win legally. She was trying to win socially. If everyone believed her version first, my truth would sound like damage control. Then I received something unexpected. A message from one of her former clients. I don't know what's happening between you two, but I thought you should know. She told us you were struggling mentally, that I had breakdowns, that I was unreliable, that she had to step in. She wasn't just protecting herself. She was planting a permanent stain on my reputation, one that would follow me professionally, because in the corporate world, instability spreads faster than talent. This is the part people don't talk about. The exhaustion, the paranoia, the second guessing. I started questioning every interaction. Who believes her? Who believes me? What proof is enough? What if people prefer her version? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Her version was more dramatic, more sympathetic, more compelling, and humans gravitate toward emotion, not evidence. So I made a decision. I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't post vague quotes. I wouldn't throw shade. I posted one statement. Clear, direct, controlled. For the past 5 years, my identity was used without my consent to conduct business activities. Legal steps have been taken. I will not engage in public back. Documentation exists. No insults. No details. Just clarity. Then I logged off and waited. Something interesting happened. She stopped posting. The vague quotes disappeared. The comments slowed, because when someone thrives on ambiguity, certainty terrifies them. My statement wasn't emotional. It wasn't reactive. It was firm, and it signaled something important. I wasn't afraid anymore. 3 days later, she called. Not angry, not confident, shaken. You didn't have to do that? I asked. Do what? Make it public. I replied calmly. You made it public first. Silence. Then she said something revealing. People are asking questions. Exactly. Because now The spotlight wasn't just on me, it was on her, and she couldn't control that narrative anymore. Just when I thought the worst had passed, the lawyer called me. There's one more issue. The loans, remember the business loans? They were up for renewal, and because the business was dissolving, the bank required direct verification from the registered owner, me. That meant I had to walk into a bank and explain that a business under my name was never actually mine. And if that verification failed, the financial liability would transfer fully. She had removed the profiles. She had gone quiet publicly, but the financial structure still existed, and that's when I realized something chilling. Even if she disappeared socially, untangling 5 years of deception would take much longer. That night, I finally broke down. Not because she betrayed me, but because I mourned who I thought she was. The late night talks, the shared dreams, the inside jokes, the comfort, all of it felt contaminated. Was any of it real? Or was she studying me the entire time? Was she supporting me? Or shadowing me? That kind of betrayal rewires you. It changes how you trust, how you share, how you celebrate your wins. Because now you wonder who's clapping for you and who's calculating. Walking into that bank felt surreal. Explaining identity theft involving your best friend isn't in anyone's life plan. But documentation helped. Legal filings helped. The paper trail helped. It didn't erase the damage, but it prevented further escalation. The loans were frozen pending investigation, which meant one thing. Pressure shifted to her. And when pressure shifts, cracks form. I thought retaliation would be loud, explosive, public. Instead, it was subtle, strategic, psychological, but what she didn't expect was that I had finally stopped protecting her. And when the investigation officially reached her door, she made a decision that shocked everyone, including me. There's a moment in every lie when it becomes too heavy to carry. For 5 years, Vanessa carried mine. My name, my history, my face, my story. But when the bank froze, the business accounts and the legal inquiry formally reached her. The fantasy cracked, and for the first time she was exposed without me saying a word. The bank contacted the registered business phone number, her number. They requested in-person verification, they requested documentation, they requested clarification, and suddenly, the structure she had carefully built under my name required her physical presence. Not a fake profile, not a filtered photo. Her reality has a way of cornering people, especially when paperwork is involved. She called me at 2:30 a.m. I remember the exact time because I didn't answer. She called again and again and again. 6 missed calls. Then a message. Please call me. It's urgent. The confidence she once had, gone. The calm tone, gone. For the first time in 5 years, she sounded scared. I agreed to meet her in a public cafe. Neutral ground, bright lights, witnesses. She looked different, tired, thinner. Like someone who hadn't slept in days. She didn't smile. She didn't hug me. She sat down and immediately said, "I can't fix this alone." That sentence told me everything. For 5 years, she had no problem doing it alone, building it alone, expanding it alone. But now that consequences were real, she wanted partnership again. She admitted that the bank inquiry triggered additional reviews. The podcast hosts had reached out. One former client had asked questions. 2 mutual friends confronted her directly. The vague quotes stopped working. The sympathy faded. People started connecting dots. And when dots connect, stories collapse. She finally said the words clearly, "I shouldn't have used your identity. Not borrowed, not helped. Used it was the closest thing to accountability I'd heard." But then she said something more honest than anything before. "I was tired of being invisible." That's what it came down to. Not greed. Not hatred, not revenge, invisibility. She had spent years feeling like the background character in her own life, and instead of building confidence, she borrowed mine. At first, it gave her power. Then it gave her income. Then it gave her validation. And validation is addictive, especially when it's tied to applause. She confessed something that disturbed me deeply. After a while, I didn't feel like I was pretending. She said she genuinely believed she embodied the qualities clients praised: the discipline, the creativity, the strategic thinking. She convinced herself that since she was doing the work, it didn't matter whose name was attached. She didn't see theft anymore. She saw evolution. She thought she had grown into me. That's when I realized something critical. This wasn't just identity theft. It was identity absorption. But illusions can't survive paperwork. When the investigation demanded signatures matching identification, when clients requested verification calls, when the tax office required, the cracks widened. She couldn't appear as me physically. She couldn't fake biometric verification. She couldn't explain why two different IP histories existed. Digital deception thrives in distance, but scrutiny closes distance. And when distance closes, truth shows up uninvited. In that cafe, she broke down, not dramatically, not loudly, but quietly, tears she had probably held in 4 weeks. I didn't think it would go this far. But that's the thing about small, unethical decisions. They rarely stay small. The first freelance profile was a test. The first payment was temptation. The first client testimonial was validation. And after that, stopping would have required humility. Continuing required ego. She chose ego until ego collapsed under evidence. She asked me what I wanted, not angrily, not defensively, just tired. I had 2 options: push for full criminal prosecution or agree to a structured resolution. The lawyer had warned me, if this went to court publicly, it would become messy. Public records. Media potential. Reputation damage attached to my name permanently, even if I won. Because headlines don't care about nuance. They care about drama, and my name would still be in that headline. We reached an agreement. Full written confession. Transfer of all business documentation. Immediate closure of financial structures. Formal acknowledgement sent to major clients clarifying identity misuse. And most importantly, a legally binding non-contact agreement. No social retaliation, no narrative rewriting, no subtle posts, no indirect messaging. Silence. No victory, just emptiness, because reclaiming something stolen doesn't feel triumphant. It feels like damage control. I wasn't gaining something new. I was restoring something that should never have been touched. And restoration doesn't erase scars. It just stabilizes them over time. People started reaching out again. Apologies. Confusion. Embarrassment. Some admitted they believed her version at first. Some stayed neutral. Some avoided the situation entirely. That's another truth about betrayal. Not everyone chooses sides. Some choose comfort, and comfort usually avoids conflict. I didn't chase explanations. I didn't demand loyalty tests. I simply rebuilt quietly. A week after everything closed, she sent one final email through her lawyer. A short statement. I am sorry for the harm caused. No emotional paragraphs. No justifications. No excuses. Just that. And oddly enough, that simplicity gave me more closure than anything else. Because it removed a narrative, removed drama, removed performance. It was just acknowledgement. 5 years. That's how long she lived as me. 5 years of contracts, 5 years of income, 5 years of applause. And in the end, what destroyed it wasn't revenge. It was exposure. But exposure doesn't just reveal the other person. It reveals you, your boundaries, your blind spots, your growth. And what I learned after all of this was more powerful than the betrayal itself. People always ask me, how did you forgive her? The truth is, I didn't. Not in the way people expect. I didn't wake up one morning and feel peace. I didn't suddenly trust again. I didn't forget. What I did was different. I detached, and that saved me. After everything was legally settled, I did something symbolic. I reintroduced myself online. New professional photos, a verified LinkedIn profile, clear branding, clear voice, clear presence. Not to compete with the ghost version of me she created, but to anchor myself. For 5 years, there were two versions of my name floating in the world. The one living quietly, and the one performing loudly. Now, there was just me. No upgrades, no exaggeration, no performance, just truth. And, oddly enough, that felt stronger than the polished image she built. But rebuilding digitally was easy. Rebuilding mentally was harder. For months, I questioned every compliment, every opportunity, every person who showed admiration. Was it genuine? Or was I being studied again? Betrayal doesn't just hurt your heart, it distorts your perception. I became more private, more observant, less eager to overshare. And that wasn't bitterness. It was awareness. There was something else I had to confront. The version of me she created was successful, confident, assertive, fearless, and for a while I resented that because I felt like she proved something. She proved that my potential was real. She just acted on it before I did. But then I realized something important. She didn't prove my potential. She proved her dependence. Because instead of building her own foundation, she stood on mine. And foundations don't envy rooftops. They support them. Over time, stories reached me. She moved cities, changed industries, rebranded completely. Different name variations online, different circles, different image. She never publicly addressed what happened. And I never needed her to. Silence can be accountability, sometimes louder than apology. Some mutual friends drifted back. Some never did, and I learned something valuable. Not everyone meant to stay in your life. Some people are chapters, not the entire book. People assume the money was the worst part. It wasn't even the reputation risk. It was this. She knew my insecurities, unused them. She knew the moments I doubted myself, the dreams I postponed, the risks I hesitated to take, and she built a life inside those hesitations. That's what betrayal really is. Not just stealing what you have, but stepping into the spaces where you paused and claiming them. For a long time, I blamed myself. How didn't I see it? How didn't I question it earlier? But here's the truth. Trust isn't stupidity. Trust is a strength. The fact that I believed in her says more about my heart than her actions say about hers. And I refuse to let someone else's manipulation turn me into someone guarded and bitter. Awareness doesn't require cruelty. It requires boundaries. Something strange happened after everything ended. Opportunities started appearing. Real ones, verified ones, clean ones. And this time, I didn't hesitate. I pitched myself confidently. I followed up. I showed up to interviews. I took ownership of my narrative. It was as if reclaiming my identity legally unlocked something internally. She had been performing confidence. I started embodying it. And that difference is powerful. Almost a year later, I saw her by accident at a networking event across the room. She saw me too. For a brief second, our eyes met. There was no anger, no dramatic confrontation, just acknowledgement. She looked away first, and in that moment, I felt something unexpected. Not victory, not rage, freedom. Because I realized I was no longer affected. Her presence didn't destabilize me. It didn't trigger panic. It didn't reopen wounds. That's how you know you've healed. When someone who once shook your world becomes just another face in a room. People love labeling villains, calling them evil, calling them monsters. But most betrayal doesn't come from monsters. It comes from insecurity, comparison, unhealed wounds. Vanessa wasn't born wanting to steal my identity. She just never built her own. And instead of confronting that emptiness, she borrowed mine. That doesn't excuse it, but it explains it. And understanding something helps you release it. If you asked me today what changed the most, it's this. I stopped shrinking. Before everything happened, I hesitated often. I downplayed my achievements. I avoided attention. I doubted my readiness. But watching someone else confidently use my name forced me to confront something. If she believed I was capable enough to sell, why didn't I? And that question transformed me. She accidentally showed me my value through theft. And now, no one gets access to it casually. Closure didn't come from her apology. It didn't come from legal paperwork. It came from this realization. She stole 5 years of identity, but she didn't steal my future. She didn't steal my ability. She didn't steal my growth. And she definitely didn't steal my resilience. Because resilience isn't something you can impersonate. It's something you survive. If this story taught you anything, let it be this. Not everyone who walks beside you is walking with you. Some people are walking behind you, measuring your footsteps. If you've ever experienced betrayal from someone close, drop a comment below. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. And if you believe in protecting your peace, your identity, and your growth, hit that like button. Subscribe to True Life Diaries for more real stories about trust, survival, and transformation. Because sometimes the biggest lessons happen behind closed doors. And sometimes the person you need to protect the most is yourself. I'll see you in the next story.